Welcome to Nerdy and Flirty, a podcast designed to help you create a life that you love. It's nerdy with science fact information, and it's flirty. It's fun, it's quick, it's straight to the point. My name is Cass, and welcome back to the podcast. Today is the third week of the Back to Wellness series where I'm taking you through every single dimension of wellness. There's 8 of them, so this is going to last 8 weeks. So far, we've covered physical health and emotional health, and now we're going into spiritual health. Now, before you just skip over this episode, this is not going to be a religious sermon. I'm not going to be forcing you to join a church. I'm not going to be knocking on your door. This is not that kind of episode. This episode is about spiritual health. And spiritual health is so much more than just a religion. And that's something I wish that I knew sooner. I wish I knew this sooner because for so long, I thought that spirituality had to be going to church or having a specific religion. And to be honest, I didn't feel like I aligned with any of the religions that I knew. I never felt like I truly aligned with one specific organized religion. So because of that, I just disregarded my spiritual health altogether. I didn't even give it the time of day, but the truth is, spiritual health is for everyone. Spiritual health is so much more than just a religion, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Of course, if you have a religion that you identify with, absolutely continue doing that because spiritual health is so personal to you. But if you don't have a specific religion, that is also okay. If you feel like something is missing from your life or you're just craving more purpose, that is your spiritual health saying, hey, pay attention to me. So what even is spiritual health? Spiritual health is your sense of purpose. It's being able to find meaning in your life regardless of the circumstances. It's being connected to yourself and also being connected to something bigger than you, to something deeper than you. Some people do find this through their religion, but some people really don't. And that doesn't mean that they don't have spirituality. It just means they have a different way of finding that spirituality. And that's because spiritual health is so personal. It's not about anyone else. It's about you. It's about what brings you peace. It's about what brings you purpose. It's about your meaning in life. That's why so many religions and spiritual practices exist to begin with, because every single person is different. But the ground rules of spiritual health are the same across the board. It's being able to find a deep sense of purpose and a deep sense of meaning in your life, regardless of the hard times. It's what you default back to when you're in a challenging situation. It's what keeps you going despite obstacles, despite hardships. That's your spiritual health. It's being able to connect to yourself, being able to connect to others, being able to connect to something bigger than you to keep you going. That is your spiritual health. You don't need to go to church or read the Bible or do any kind of organized rules to have spiritual health. Of course, if that is your way, that is amazing. But there are so many other ways to explore spirituality outside of that as well. And for most people, it's not just one way. It's actually a combination of different things that make you feel connected to something deeper than you. If you feel like you're just going through the motions or you're just doing things but you don't even understand why you're doing them, you just do them because you're supposed to, that's a clear sign that your spiritual health is lacking. Some other things you might notice is if you're constantly searching for meaning or validation, but you never actually feel satisfied. That could be through social media, that could be through material objects, it could be through constantly chasing after achievements but never feeling satisfied with them. That's another sign that your spiritual health needs some work. Or even if you just feel disconnected in your life, if you feel like you don't understand others, no one understands you, you don't understand yourself, you don't feel like you belong, even if there are people around you, that's usually a clear sign that you're looking for some spirituality. And like I've been saying, spirituality is so much broader than religion. Spirituality is having that sense of purpose, having that sense of meaning. If you feel like I just described you, don't worry, keep listening because we're going to get into it. Before I continue, I want you to do a body scan. Where are you feeling tension? Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Relax your eyebrows. Remove the tongue from the roof of your mouth. Relax your entire body. So many of us spend every day in constant tension, even when we're sitting or resting. Relax. Be aware of where you are. Be present in the moment, because that is part of spirituality, is being present in the moment. We talk a lot about mindfulness. when it comes to spirituality, and part of being mindful is being physically aware. One of the easiest ways to be brought into the present is to physically scan your body on where you are and feel, where am I feeling tension? Oh my God, I didn't realize my shoulders were by my ears all day. That's one of the quickest ways to bring yourself back to the present and feel inner peace throughout the day. I do this multiple times throughout the day. I will do like a little check with myself and be like, okay, relax, drop the shoulders, and bring myself back to the moment. Then you can go into mindfulness and meditation. Now, for mindfulness and meditation, I am not someone that can sit on a pillow for hours on end, crisscross applesauce with my eyes closed. That is not for me, and that is not the only way to meditate. If that is you and you can meditate like that, I think you are so cool, because I know meditation like that has great benefits. But for most people, that is really intimidating and really hard to do, especially if you've never done it before. You don't have to jump from no meditation to sitting for hours with your eyes closed. That is not what meditation is. There are other ways to practice meditation and mindfulness. One way is what I'm calling mini meditations throughout the day, which is basically where I scan my body, I take deep breaths, and I just focus on my breath, and I do it for a few minutes. It's not a crazy thing. It's just a few minutes to bring me back into the present and calm myself down. Throughout the day, we are constantly tasked with a million things, a million thoughts going a million miles a second, that we hardly find moments throughout the day to just slow down and pay attention. So something I do throughout the day is these mini mindfulness or mini meditation sessions where I just spend a couple minutes feeling, just being present. And that to me is a small way to connect with myself. Now, if I want to do a deeper mindfulness, a deeper meditation session, I like to do a guided meditation. There are a ton of different ways to do guided meditations. One of the easiest ways is to go on YouTube and play a free one. There are so many amazing videos out there that are guided meditations. There's also, I think, the Calm app, which my brother uses. And there are different ways to do guided meditation where instead of thinking of nothing, you're playing this video and following what it says. Usually it's visualize this scene and think about this and imagine yourself doing this. And I think that that's a great way. But if you are antsy like me, another thing that I like to do is do a guided meditation walk. So rather than sitting still, I go for a walk and I listen to the guided meditation while I'm walking. Now, I'm not sure if this is true traditional meditation, but it works for me. It brings me present. I'm still listening to the ideas and the visualization, but instead of sitting still, I'm able to move some of that energy out. I also like to play different frequencies. I'll play them when I'm walking. I'll even play them in the morning, at the nighttime. And if you literally search on Spotify, frequencies for XYZ, you can find some for anxiety relief, for love, for whatever you're looking for. And they are so calming. They are like the most beautiful sounds I've ever heard. And they just bring me back to the present. I really like to play these when I'm walking because it switches it up from the music that we're used to listening to all the time to something really positive and heartwarming. That works way better for me. I'm not someone that likes to sit still and just focus. And I know that that's probably something that I should work on because it is good to challenge yourself to do that. But if you're just getting started and you're like, I hate that, I don't want to do that, that's not for me, do the walking meditation. Like I mentioned in the very beginning of this episode, spiritual health is individual. It is personal. It's what works for you. It's how you find deep meaning in your life. It's not about anyone else. And in this episode, I'm going to give you a bunch of different tools, and it's up to you to explore them and figure out which ones work for you. Another way that I like to meditate or find mindfulness is actually through yoga. It's similar to the reason why I like to do walking meditations, but yoga allows me to physically move energy out of me. And there is nothing like being completely present in one class to focus on what I'm doing and nothing else. I feel like when I go to yoga, nothing else is in my head except yoga. I'm thinking about, oh, now I'm doing this pose. Now I'm balancing on this leg and I have this toe this place and this arm this place. I'm not thinking about the projects I need to work on, the work stuff I have, the emails, the text messages. It's an hour and 15 minutes of no phone time and physical activity to feel present in the moment. Most of us do not get enough time per day to just be in our own heads. We're either on our phones, getting text messages, interrupted with this conversation, this email comes in, this person says this happens, that happens, right? We don't have a lot of time of just in the present moment doing one task. We are constantly bombarded with a million other tasks, so we have to force ourselves to find time to do this. And yoga is a great way because everyone knows when I'm in a yoga class, I am unavailable. I am not texting. I am not on my phone. I am completely present in the class. Now, if you're listening and you're like, Cass, I hate yoga. It's not for me. I will tell you this. Yes, yoga is not for everyone. But there are different forms of yoga, and this is something that I didn't know until I started going more often. But there are so many different forms of yoga that there might be a class that fits your style way more than what you've done before. Some classes are more like power yoga, where you're doing more of a workout. To me, I don't consider that spiritual health. Like it can be, but for the most part, that is more of a workout. That is more physical health to me, where I'm doing ab exercises, I'm doing glute exercises, and I'm feeling physically worked. That has benefits on its own for mental health and everything like that, but that doesn't make me feel spiritually connected to myself. That's just a workout. One of my favorite ways to feel connected to myself during yoga is yin yoga. Yin yoga, if you've never done it, is where you hold poses for an extended period of time. It's very slow. You're not burning a lot of calories. You're holding different stretches. And honestly, it feels a little bit uncomfortable because you're holding it for so long. But by the end, you just feel lighter. Like you feel like you stretched really well and your mind just took like an escape. It's amazing. That's what I like to do for spiritual health. I'm not doing power yoga as my spiritual health yoga. And there are a bunch of other types of yoga as well. So if you've tried yoga once before, I really encourage you to try other forms and find one that works for you. And if you've tried them all and you still don't like it, then you can say, okay, not for me. And that's totally okay. Another way that sounds so basic and everyone says it, but really does work is spending time in nature. But when I say spend time in nature, I mean spend time in an area that is untouched by civilization. Whether you're in the mountains somewhere, you're by the ocean, you're by a lake, you're in a park, somewhere that you're not surrounded by buildings and chaos and beeping horns and sirens and things like that. Find an area that is actually natural and calm, where you can ground yourself. Spending time in nature, everyone says it, but it really is underrated because the moment you do it, you just immediately feel better. You just immediately feel like your worries are so much smaller. The only way to do this right, though, is to limit your distractions and actually spend time in nature. Don't bring your phone, or if you need to bring your phone for safety reasons, turn it off, put it in your bag, don't touch it, and actually exist in nature. Take a seat on a bench. Take a seat by the water. Go for a stroll and look around. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you feeling? What are your senses feeling? This is an amazing way to get back to your inner self and feel peace. You could have the worst day ever and you spend time in nature and it feels a little bit better. I'm not saying it takes away all your problems, and the moment you go back to your house, you probably feel it all over again. But for those few minutes you spend in nature, it feels better. I think because of social media and what we talk about when it comes to wellness, people do say, get outside, get your sunlight, spend time in nature. But I feel like most of the messaging is go for a walk, go for a run, listen to your podcast, do this, do that, do an incline walk, go hiking. And those things are great for other reasons. But if you're really trying to work on your spirituality, you gotta go and be by yourself. You can't have a podcast in, can't have music in. You could play a guided meditation if you want, but spend time in the silence. How often do you get silence in a day? Probably not a lot. How often are you really having silence? Never, right? So we have to cultivate that into our lives and actually spend time in it. Even just 15 minutes of silence in nature can really take you into a deeper understanding of yourself. I absolutely promise you. If you're just starting this and it feels like you don't even know what to think about, you don't even know what to do with yourself, you're very antsy, very fidgety, bring a journal or bring a sketchbook. Bring something that you can do while you're in nature. When I was in college, we had this park on campus. It wasn't even like a park, it was like a spiritual garden. Basically, there was reflexology for your feet, there was different things. And inside, it wasn't a big place, but it felt like a mini oasis. And there was one bench and table, and I would bring a sketchbook there and I would sit there by myself and I would just sketch what was around me. And it wasn't good sketches. It wasn't for anyone to see. It was just for me. But that was one of the best things I could do for myself because it forced me to just be. It forced me to be present and use my senses and look around and notice the things around me. So many of us just go day to day, go with the motions. Okay, I go to work, I get my coffee, I drink my coffee, I eat breakfast, I do this, I do that. And it's the same day on repeat. Of course you don't feel connected. Of course you don't feel a sense of meaning. You're not finding times to feel meaning. Something as simple as spending 15 minutes outside drawing can make you feel connected to yourself and to something deeper. Going along with that, another great spiritual practice is doing something creative. Every single person is creative, even if you tell yourself you're the worst artist, you're the worst dancer, you're the worst musician, you can't sing, whatever you're telling yourself, every single person is creative. And I know this because when you meet children, every single child has an imagination, they create, they draw, and they don't care about it being beautiful. They don't care about it being wrong. They just do it. And throughout adulthood, that's when we lose our creativity because someone told us, oh, you're not that good at drawing. You're not that good at singing. You're not that good at this. But the truth is, every single person has creativity inside them. There is something so special about creating because it brings you into a flow state. You know when you work on a project and you just can't do anything else until it's done? That is the flow state. When you're painting something, even if it doesn't come out good, and you're like, I have to finish this before I do anything else, and you're just so focused on the painting, that is mindfulness. That's being mindful. Or if you're working on a puzzle and you're like, I can't go do anything else until I finish this puzzle, and all you're thinking about is the puzzle, that is a great way to bring mindfulness into your life. Many of us don't find any time to feel this throughout the day because we're focused on work, we're focused on the demands of our life, we're focused on the laundry that needs to be done. But when we find these little moments of creativity, now all of a sudden, all that noise is silenced and we're just focusing on one project. That is so special, and we need to bring that more in our lives. So even if you tell yourself that you're not an artist, you're not a dancer, you're not this, you're not that, you're lying to yourself. Find something and do it. It could be anything. It could be a paint by numbers. It could be writing a poem. It could be a crossword puzzle. It could be anything that's going to take you out of your mundane day-to-day and gives you something to focus on. If you're feeling depleted in your life and you're feeling like you don't have a lot of meaning in your life, spend time doing something that brings you to this flow state. Too many of us spend so much time producing for our jobs, for our side hustles, for the people around us, that we don't find time to create. And I really encourage you to find time to create. There's a book that I love about this called The Artist's Way, and I know I've mentioned it 100 million times on the podcast by now, but it truly is such a great book, and shout out to the person who gave it to me. It is literally one of the best things I've ever read. I've read it multiple times now, and it's all about our innate desire to create as adults. And as children, we create until one day it gets silenced and we become adults and we stop creating. But the true secret to happiness is creating something. It brings such fulfillment in your life. So find something that you can create and do it. Another way to find purpose in your life is to create purpose outside of your job. Especially if you're in your 20s, you're probably working a job that you don't feel a ton of passion towards. You don't feel a ton of purpose towards. I know people that are in their 40s and 50s that don't feel purpose in their job. It would be so awesome if we all had jobs that we felt purpose towards, but the reality of that is a lot of us are working jobs because we need a job and not because we necessarily want the job. And that just is the truth. But that doesn't mean that we can't find purpose in other places, and it's important to create that in your life. One of the easiest ways to do that is to give. Give to others. We live in such an individual society that we stopped giving to others because we all became selfish. We all care about our own achievements, our own lives, But the reality is, when you give to others, everything comes back to you. And it sounds like contradictory, but you know that when you've given to others, yeah, it makes them feel good, but it makes you feel even better when you give to someone. And giving doesn't have to be monetary. A lot of us think about, donations, give money, give this. You can also give things that cost you nothing. You can give your time. You can give your listening. You can give your energy. And those all go such a long way, and it actually fills your own cup up too. Giving doesn't empty your cup, even though it sounds like it would. Giving fills your cup up. So give to other people. Volunteer your time. Volunteer to your community. If you have the financial means, donate to the people around you. Create gift baskets. Give them out. If you have expertise in an area, which we all have expertise somewhere, mentor someone trying to get where you are. Or go to local schools and teach them about your career field or your expertise or a passion you have. Not only does it help those people that you're volunteering for, but it helps you. It gives back to you. It makes you feel like you're actually doing something that matters, especially if you work in a job that you don't feel like actually has deep purpose in your life. This is the best way to find purpose in your life, is by creating it for yourself. Do something you already love doing, but do it for the people around you. Like if you love sports, volunteer your time with a local kids sports team. Or even just help someone around you. Like if you're at the grocery store and you see an elderly person pushing their cart, help them. Help them put their groceries in the car. I think we lost a lot of that kindness for other people because we've become so selfish in our own society and our own lives. And I think social media plays a huge part in that. But it's important to bring that back into your life and feel connected with the people around you. We're not made to be 100% on our own individual people. We're made to be in a community. Of course, independence is important and individuality is important, but we're made to rely on our community. And so many of us have lost that. But the easiest way to build that back up is to start with you and give. Give your time, give your energy. It doesn't even have to be a big, long thing. It can be something you're already doing, but you help the person next to you while you're doing it. I promise you 100%, you will see improvement in your own life when you start doing things to improve other people's lives. I promise you, it sounds backwards, but that's really how it works. And you know, whenever you've given your time to someone else, you feel better afterwards. So try some of these things out and definitely let me know what you try out. I'd love to hear how it goes. I want to know about your experiences. And if you're not in the Facebook group already, definitely join the Facebook group, Nerdy and Flirty Holistic Health and Wellness Group on Facebook. I'll include you, I'll add you. I'm posting all kinds of little quotes and resources that go along with the Back to Wellness series. And it's a great way for you to connect with other people. Go join that. Let's keep this conversation going. And just remember that spiritual health is so personal. So don't feel like you need to follow what other people are doing. Do what works for you. And if you don't know what works for you, explore everything until you figure out what works for you. Thank you so much for listening. As always, rate the podcast 5 stars and nothing less. Follow the Instagram at Nerdy and Flirty Pod and at Cass Camp. And I will talk to you next week about the next dimension of wellness. Bye.